is recording. Now, let's break it down. What does linear mean? What is linear? Cooper? Because you're obviously very focused right now. What does linear mean?
Line.
Very good. It is actually a line. Okay, so even if you weren't sure, a line, we generally speak of a straight line. You can have a curved line, you can have a dotted line, but this specifically means straight line. So as you're going through exercise 9B, 9C, what you would have found is you're sketching straight lines. And I told you to use a ruler to sketch because when you're sketching in year 9, 10, 11, and 12, they expect it to be actually straight. So there shouldn't be any curves. There shouldn't be those lines. This is what I see with my year 10s at the start of the year. So they want to make it look nice. So they do a bit of a sketch along the way. Don't do that. Okay, so year 11 and 12, you lose marks simply because this implies you have multiple graphs. Okay, so when you draw a straight line, it can't just be like that, even though that looks fairly straight. I do want you to use a ruler, and if you don't have a ruler, use a piece of paper to mark your straight line. Okay, so now you've got the equation for a straight line. Now this equation only has two key features that you must know. The letter M and the letter C. We call these parameters for those who are interested in the name. These are called parameters. That's the proper term. Now, these two parameters are special in a straight line because a straight line, you can draw it in multiple ways, but every straight line has two key features. Let's look at your notes from last time. What does C represent again? Michael.
The number under 0.
Oh, very good. There's something to do with 0.
So when x equals 0, y equals whatever.
Oh,
Yeah, y.
very good. Whatever y is, that is your C value. Okay? Now, let's look on the x and y axis over here. Where is x equal to 0? The middle. It's right here. This is where x equals 0. So when I say 0, 1, what you see is that this is the point for 0, 1. If I said 0, 2, you would say that this is the point for 0, 2. What's common about all those 3 points right now? What are they sitting on?
0.
The y? The y-axis. So we actually give a name to this C value. We call it the y-intercept. Now this only is true for a straight line equation. Okay, so in year 9, you're going to be focusing quite a bit on straight line equations only. Once your algebra is fairly good, which is what I've been training you to do in chapter 5 and 7, you'll move into other graphs. Okay, so for now, straight line equations, the C, you can find out the C value simply by looking on the graph. Where does the straight line cross the y-axis? Where it crosses on the y-axis, that y value is your C value. Okay, we're going to do some examples later. Now, the last one that you need to get your head around as well is M. Now, that's probably the biggest thing. Right now, I'm teaching my year 11s about M again. So this is all the stuff that they would have learnt in year 8, year 9, year 10, year 11, year 12. I'm teaching them again in year 10. Year 11. M. What is M again? In your notes, what is it called?
Gradient.
Great. Who said that? Very good, James. It is called the gradient. Now, I gave you a definition for the gradient as well. How do you find the gradient again?
Y over x.
Y over x. Very good. And at the time, when you did exercise 9B, I said that you're finding the pattern for the y values and the pattern for the x values. So I'm just going to write next to it to remind you. You are looking for the pattern for x, and on the top here, you're looking for the pattern for y. Please copy this down. Whoops. Please make sure to copy these down. Yeah. Because I am going to use this information to show you how can you find an equation of a straight line instead of doing what you did in 9b. So if you were doing the exercise for 9b, 9c, what you would have found is it was a tedious process. You had to fill out the table, then you had to look at the coordinates to find out where x equals 0, and it was a long process to do. Some of you asked me, there has to be a better way to do this, and there is. This better way requires you to know your algebra, which is why I'm going through this. Okay, in order to use the algebra, you have to know that's your general equation for any straight line that you can ever think of. Okay, and I'm going to guide you through it, but you need to be able to learn how to find C and M. Okay, so we're going to start off by doing that. I'm going to show you how to find M algebraically, and you can do it graphically as well. Then I'll show you how to find C algebraically, and then you should be able to determine the straight line equation for most things efficiently. Okay, now let's use a bit of logic here. When you're drawing a straight line, so I'm going to do it in orange over here. When you're doing a straight line, how many points do you need to draw a straight line? Minimum. How many do you really need if you want to draw a straight line? 2. In exercise 9b, I'm going to go back to 9b to remind you, when you did 9b, you didn't have just 2 points. If you had a look at the examples over here, they gave you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. You had to fill out the table, you had to work out the equation, and then you can sketch it, right? Or you plot the points. That shows that you need 5 points. Takes too long. And you had to also rule it out as well. You had to do 1, 2, 3, 4. It takes too long. What I'm teaching you now is you don't need to do the scale. You only need 2 points, and then you can sketch a straight line with a ruler. Okay, so I'm going to show you. Say, take this example over here. You got y equals 3x minus 1. I'm going to show you later how you can sketch this. Whoops, where are we up to? We're up to 9EF. I'm going to show you. You only need, I'm going to write here, need only 2 points to sketch. So this was the equation. Y equals 3x, I think it was plus 1, minus 1, plus 1. Minus 1? I'm going to show you how to sketch that later. For now, we are simply, actually I'll make it easier for us as well. I'll make it minus 6, just so it works out easier for you later. Okay? Now, what you did in 9b was that you had to fill out a table, and they filled it out. They gave you 5 x coordinates, and you had to work out the y, and then you plotted it, and you had to label the axes. It takes too long. Okay? You only need 2 things to solve it, and once you've got those 2 points, you can sketch this equation. Now, before you can do that, I need to teach you how to find this gradient. Okay? Now, in your notes for this gradient, can you please write this formula down? You're going to know this back and forth. All my year 10s and 11s will always remember this rule. They may not understand it, but they will remember this rule. M, so write it down. M is your gradient. We said it was y over x, and I told you it was the pattern for y for pattern for x. But year 9, you are going to be using this formula. Y subscript 2 minus y subscript 1 over x subscript 2 minus x subscript 1. This is your gradient formula. So even if you didn't understand the concept that I'm teaching you, you would still be able to do this. I like to teach you to understand what this formula is actually doing. Okay? And I'm going to use this example to the right to help you understand that. So as you're copying this rule down, for those who already copied the rule, I want you to have a look at the graph over here. You have, find the gradient of these lines. Okay? Remember, you don't have to have all the points. You only need 2 points. As long as you have 2 points, you can figure out the equation of the straight line. So right now, you don't know what the equation is. Okay? We do know it's a straight line. So in your notes, you should know there is a y equals mx plus c. That's the equation. Okay, so I'm just going to move across a bit. There is an equation, y equals m times x plus c. If I can figure out what m and c is, I'll be able to figure out what this equation is. That means I can go to Desmos, I can type it up, and it'll be able to sketch exactly what you have there. Okay? Problem is, I don't know what it is. You don't have a table, you don't have an equation, you can't use exercise 9b. But you only need 2 points. Now, how many points can you see on this graph at the moment? Okay, Michael, which 2 do you see?
I see 0, 0, and 2, 3.
Very good. What you saw just now, most students only see 1. They only see the 2 and 3. So I'm going to highlight it so you can see. Most students will only see this section. But very good that you picked up that there was another point on this graph.
There's also
Negative 2. Very good. So, that was a very good pickup there. You only need 2 points. Obviously, the more points, great, but you only need 2 points. And out of these 3, you're looking for points that you actually know. So you can see that that line has a corner right at 2 and 3. Okay, so it's 2 across, 3 up. What you can also see is there's also another point at 0, 0. So I'm going to just highlight that, 0, 0. Now remember, you don't need 5 points to figure out a pattern. You only need 2. Let's look at the pattern. Say from 0, 0 to get to 2, 3, horizontally. How far did I have to move from 0, 0, so from x 0, to move across where x is 2? How many units is that?
3.
Think about it. So this is 2, this is 0. So notice these are the x values. This is x. I'm starting from 0, and I just need to move across. How much do I need to move across?
2.
2. So the pattern is plus 2. So you don't need 5 points to see that. You can use just 2 points to see 2. Now, alternatively, we could have done this. So we know this is a distance of 2. Now, how did you know it was 2? Well, you can actually look at it as this way. You had 0, 0, and you also had 2, 3. The pattern, how did you know that 0 to 2 was 2 distance away? I understood what Michael was saying, but I'm actually, like I said, this is a very important exercise. And if you're not focused, I ask you to just keep to yourself so that I can teach to everyone else. Okay, because next year, the number of students that drop mathematics for year 10 is because of this topic. This is where it begins, and if you're not interested, I'm okay. You'll just be one of the statistics. But I'm here to help. So I'm here to change that. If you don't want to be helped, that's fine. That's on you. But don't affect the other students in the class, because that then annoys me. Okay, so I gave you a choice. You make a choice, make a mature one, and I'm here for you. Right? All right, so here we go. Like I said, you only need 2 points to find the gradient. Now we said the gradient is the pattern for x and pattern for y. We can see that the pattern for x was 2, because we can look at the 2 points and going across from 0 to the next point. That was only 2 distance. If you didn't want to pick those 2 points, you could have also picked these 2 points. Can you also see it's also a distance of 2, because that's the pattern. The pattern is on the x-axis, you're moving across 2 every time. So even these 2 points here have a distance of 2. Now the formula, how did you know it was 2? You didn't need a formula to do that. What they try to do is they try to make it more concise to help you see it. This is what they do. They ask you to label it as, say this was point 1. That's the first point. They call it x1, y1, because they're saying that's the first x coordinate, that's the first y coordinate. But that's all arbitrary, meaning any could be the first one or second one. Doesn't matter which one. Then this is your second point. So they call it x2, y2. Now you can see if I follow the formula over here, x2 minus x1, this is x2 minus x1. Can you see that's why we had 2 minus 0 That's how you knew it was 2. Right? But you didn't need a formula to know that there was 2. Logically, you were looking at it. You were looking at it and said, well, that's 2 distance, that's 0. You figured out the distance, but they're putting in a formula just to say, if you subtract them, 2 take away 0 gives you a distance of 2. That's all it is.
Why do you need formula?
You don't.
Okay,
But a lot of students like formulas. So when we teach them, most students use formula. I'm teaching you logic. I'm teaching you graphically how to understand that, because a lot of students, when they don't have a graph, they don't understand their voice. Thank you.
why do you need a formula? It's like, you know how in 9C we would keep a table and you can just see like, I don't know, so in our example for 9C it was just +3. Why can't we just do 3? That's what I think I was doing for most of the exercise instead of full formula.
Correct. That's because you have 5 points. Later on, you're not going to get 5 points. And most students rely on a formula to figure out things. I'm trying to teach you to be more logical, more critical, and more graphically. But later on, you're not going to get a graph either. You're going to get just 2 points. They may say, find the equation of this straight line if you have 3, 1 and 5, 6. That's all I might give you in year 9. And that's expected that if I asked you now, those 2 coordinates, find the equation of the straight line. So this is where students need to figure out what is y equals mx plus c. Okay, now this is where students may not know how to find y equals mx plus c with just 2 points. Okay, yep.
But with that, the m will just equal 5.
Does it equal 5?
Yes.
No.
How?
Well, now I'm going to show you if you let me teach you.
Oh, so I'm in 2.
I haven't taught you yet, so let me do it, and then you can have a go. Okay? But I love the enthusiasm. I love that you're engaged. Here we go. So m, remember, it was the pattern of the y's and the pattern of the x. All we've done so far is I followed the rule, and that helps you to find horizontally 2 minus 0 gives you 2. We still need to do the y component. So we need to know what's the pattern from 0 to 3. Now 0 to 3 is easier than the one I just gave you up here from 1 to 6. Okay? If we have a look at the diagram, from 0 vertically, what's the distance from this first point to the second point? What's the vertical distance? How many units? 3. Very good. So we can see there are 3 units just looking at it visually. But if I didn't have a visual aid to it, if we were just to focus on the coordinates, how do I know that it is going to be 3? This is why they want you to use the formula to start off with. y2 is 3 minus y1, which is 0. 3 minus 0 gives you the 3. So what this is saying here is that my gradient, m, is equal to 3 over 2. So a lot of students in year 9, they're not used to fractions. They don't like fractions. This is why they give up. As soon as they see 3 over 2, they're not like, oh, I don't know. I don't like it. Most of the gradients you've been working with has been a nice whole number. This one is going to be fraction. Okay, it's okay to have a fraction. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so this is a gradient of 3 over 2. And if you need to understand what it means, this just means for the y values, the pattern is always plus 3. This just means the pattern for the x values is always plus 2. That's all it's trying to say. Okay? So you plus 2 across horizontally, and vertically you add 3 every time. So if I go back to the graph, what they're trying to tell you is if I want to know what the next coordinate is, it's plus 2 across. So on the x-axis, plus 2. And on the y-axis, add another 3. So what's my new coordinate? If you have a think about it, the pattern means I'm going to move across 2. So add another 2 to it. Now it gets 4. Think about it. I was at 2. Add another 2 gives me 4. Now from here, the y value was 3. The pattern for the y was up 3. So add another 3. That gives me 6. So 4, 6 will be where the next point on your straight line would be, and you follow that pattern. Up 3, across 2. Up 3 across 2, up 3 across 2 is what the gradient means. Okay, now I know that was a bit confusing there. We're going to practice with another one. Again, you only need 2 points to find m. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do it again. Let's try this one. M, I'm going to write down the formula again. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. These are my 2 coordinates I can see. You've got 0, 4, and you've got 4, 0. So here we go. I'm going to write it down. 0, 4, 4, 0. Doesn't matter which one is the first one and the second one. Doesn't matter which one. Okay, you can just name them. So I'm going to name this one x1, y1 as the first point. This is x2, y2 for my second point. Now I'm going to follow my formula. You don't have to follow the formula, but you can look at it visually as well. You look at it vertically. What's the distance from the first point vertically? 4 units, logically. But if I follow the formula, y2, which is 0, minus 4, which is my y1, gives me a negative 4. I know the value is a bit different here, but I'm going to show you why. So you got 0 minus 4. What about your x values? Horizontally. How far is that? How many units? 4 again. And how do you know it's 4? Same thing again. x2, which is 4, minus x1, which is 0. Now we simplify this. 0 minus 4. What's 0 minus 4? Negative 4. Divided by 4. 4 minus 0 is 4. What's negative 4 divided by 4 again? Negative 1. Very good. Now, this is what we call the gradient. This just means your gradient is negative 1 overall. But if you want to write this as a fraction, this is the same thing as writing negative 1 over 1. So what's the pattern? If you read it, the y pattern, so the y values, the pattern is down, also not down, minus 1 for all the y values, and this one is add 1 for all the x values. That's the pattern. Okay? Thank you. This is really good. So I know you're copying the notes. I'm just going to give you a bit of time to have a think about what I just did. What I'm teaching you is the algebra component. The visual part helps you to visualize it. Okay? You're doing 4 and then 4. Now notice, that has a negative answer. Why is there a negative answer? Because when we're drawing it, notice because you're going down, notice the graph is down 1, across 1. Down 1, across 1. Down 1, across 1. That's the pattern. When you're going down, that's why the equation has a negative. Okay, so sometimes on a graph, if you don't do it through the equation, you might just write positive 4, which is wrong. You're not going up by 4, you're going down by 4 and across by 4. Okay, so that allows you to find m. So far, remember, in the equation for a straight line, how many things did you have to find? You have to find m, and what's the other one that we need to find? C. Okay, now this is where it's special. I've almost got the equation for both of these. I've got m for both of them. So remember this one, m was equal to 3 over 2. Over here, m now equals to negative 1. So I haven't got the equation yet, but I can find it. Have a look. Your general equation is y equals to m times x plus c. This is y equals mx plus c as well. What you found out by doing what I just taught you is that you found out m. Okay, so this exercise allows you to find m. What does that mean? That means your equation now is 3 over 2x plus c, whilst this is negative 1x plus c. Okay, have a think about what I've just said. I'm just going to show you again. Gradient. I asked you to find m. I gave you one formula. You only need 2 points. y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. We found out m equals negative 1. When you know m is equal to negative 1, can you see in this equation, I replace the letter M with a -1. There's only one thing that I'm missing right now. C. How do I find C is the next part of the exercise I will show you. But right now, I just want you to find M. Okay, so that's the skill. I want you to practice what I just taught you. You're finding two things. I'm splitting it up to 2 sessions. Today, I'm teaching you how to find M. Wednesday, I'm teaching you how to find C. And then from here on in year 9, listening? Shh. In year 9, you only use these techniques to find, with 2 points, you'll be able to find the equation. That's the fastest way to find the equation of a straight line in Sketch. Okay, thank you. Guys, make a choice. What I want you to do now, okay, so for each and every one of these exercises, I'm going to show you which one of the questions I want you to do. This is currently on 9F. You're finding the gradient. Okay, there's only one formula. You only need 2 points. With 2 points, you should be able to find M. So these are the questions I want you to have a go. So flip to exercise 9F. They'll give you a graph. So start off by finding the graph visually. Will help you visualize how to find M. Okay, so each one of those, you can use a formula, you can use the graph.
I've moved away from him.
Cooper.
I was getting distracted and
Cooper.
he followed me.
I think it's fair to say that I've given you guys warning, so if you're not going to, I think AJ's done the right thing. Okay?
You were physically
Thank you. Now, questions that I want you to do. To help you, question 3 of exercise 9F is nice because it is graphical. As you get better with the graphs, so question 3 and 4, I want you to have a go with this section here. Okay? So this one now doesn't have graphs. That's question. So that's from the extension question, actually. But the extension question is really something that you should be able to do. How would you find the gradient of each and every one of these without a graph? Okay, so I want you to move away from graphs afterwards, but to start off with, I want you to stick with just question 3 and 4 from 9F. I want you to find the gradient. Understanding gradient is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Or you can think of it as the pattern for the y and the pattern for the x. You only need 2 points. Okay, so in this graph, I can see there are 2 points, 1, 3, 0, 0. Okay, I want you to find the gradients for question 3 and question 4. And then once you're feeling confident with that, without the formula or with the formula, I want you to then have a go with the extension question I've put here. That section there challenges you with your algebra. So how good your algebra is. Okay, you can do it graphically if you want. You can sketch it. But start off with 3 and 4. Okay, so that's today's lesson. On Wednesday, which is my semi-last session with you on chapter 9, then I'll teach you how to find C. Okay, because I know this is a very important topic for next year, and I want to make sure that you've got some background in it. Okay?